Hello, Scott here. Welcome to part 2 of a guide to the Rockstar editor. The first video, of course, covered the director mode within that, so hopefully now you'll have a little bit of game footage recorded that you can now take into the editor itself. And this is where things start to get really interesting. Thanks, Scott. Let's get straight into it then. There are a couple of ways to get into the editor. You can get there from single player mode by scrolling to the last tab in the main menu. Or if you're already in the editor, in director mode by pressing M. From here you can manage both projects and the clips you've saved in game. In clip management you can sort, preview and delete unwanted clips, and this is the only screen from which you can delete clips from your hard drive completely. The video gallery stores complete projects that you have already exported using the editor's export tool, projects which can then be uploaded to YouTube. So let's create a new project. First thing to do, and indeed the only thing you can do at this stage, is to add a clip. This will take you to the complete list of saved clips on your hard drive. The link icon on the right indicates that this clip has already been used in one or more projects. I recorded a few clips previously for this tutorial, which I actually ended up turning into a full-blown cinematic, and I guess that just goes to show how addictive this tool can become. Select the clip and you'll be taken to your project's timeline. Compared to other video editors, this timeline is extremely basic, but that's not such a bad thing, and there are other ways to use recorded in-game footage for programs like Adobe Premiere and Sony Vegas, but we'll touch on that later. At the moment, our timeline consists only of one clip, but if we add another, hopefully you can see what's going on. Your mouse is now holding the new clip, and we need to decide whether to put it in before or after our existing one. You can see, as I move left and right along the length of the existing clip, that the timeline is giving us an option to place it before in this half or after in this half. In this case, let's place it after our first clip by clicking towards the right. Now that's dropped into place, you can see in the overview at the bottom exactly what's happened. This bar will always show you your entire clip, and the box that slides along it represents the section you can see in the timeline above. The light blue line is the active clip, and all other clips will be in this darker blue, the lengths of which represent the current length of that clip within the timeline. By clicking and holding the box, you can move along the timeline quickly to help you find clips that you want to edit, which is more useful for larger projects with long timelines and lots of clips. Let's now have a look at clip editing. In many ways, this part of the process could be associated with being a director as much as an editor, because this is where we'll set up our clips by creating and manipulating cameras to get the shot we want. Along the bottom of the screen, we can see the time bar of our complete clip, and by clicking and holding on the bar itself, we can scroll through the clip from start to finish. These two white markers at each end represent the start and end point of our clip on the timeline, which, because we haven't edited it yet, contains the entire clip recorded in-game. By sliding these in from either side, we can select where the shot will start and finish within the timeline. So if there's a section of gameplay at either end that you don't want to include in the shot, you can easily get rid of it, and only the clipped section of that shot between these two markers will go onto your timeline. It's these markers that are the key to creativity within your clip. What they mark is essentially a virtual camera. The start marker is already a camera that can be edited, and you can create further cameras to change shot mid-clip by pressing M. Let's get rid of that for now though, and have a closer look at the camera editor. And this is probably the most complex part of the whole process. The camera view you'll start with is the basic game camera, locked to the player's character in third person. With any camera, you have a number of options. Depth of field will often enable you to get a more cinematic look by replicating the limited focal plane that a real camera and lens setup will produce, depending on the aperture setting. This can be controlled automatically by default or manually set at a certain distance and with a certain strength. I won't go too deeply into this, but it's something you can experiment with to get the best results for your shot. The effects section allows you to overlay a number of filters to quickly give your project or clip a certain atmosphere, the effect of which can be applied as a percentage if you don't want the full intensity, as well as a number of manual options to apply color correction. The audio menu will allow you to adjust the range of sound effects independently as you would in-game, as well as specify from what point of view the sound is replicated, i.e. do you want to hear it from the player's point of view or the position of the third-person camera? Again, a number of options to experiment with. Score intensity refers to music you've added to your project on the timeline rather than music in-game. Speed is fairly self-explanatory. When applied, it will enable you to get some slow-mo shots all the way down to 5% speed, which is pretty damn slow. And note that because the speed of the clip is reduced, you'll see the effective length of it increase as indicated by the chevrons here. This also obviously applies in reverse if you speed up the clip. The thumbnail option allows you to select the current marker and its frame as a thumbnail, which can be seen in the timeline and can help you identify certain shots when you're editing the project as a whole. With a new marker, you'll also see an anchor option, and as it says, by turning this on, you'll be able to create a visible mark on the timeline that will help you to queue up music or titles from the timeline view. On the start and end markers, you can select whether or not to fade the clip in or out. And so on to cameras. A camera can be edited from the start marker and a marker created within the clip, but not on the end marker. Straight away, you'll have a number of in-game and preset camera views available, the most versatile of which is the free camera, but I'm going to cover that in the next video. What I will mention now though is that the in-game camera will also play back the in-game cinematic view if you've used that whilst recording your clip. This is important because it allows you to get external shots that you wouldn't be able to with the free camera and the limits of the bubble mechanic that I explained in my last video. Just something to bear in mind really, and remember also you'll only be able to have that in your project clip if you've recorded from that view in-game. For now though, we can see that for each of these preset cameras we can add a camera shake option, and like depth of field, this allows you to add a bit of authenticity to your shots by allowing the camera to move slightly as if it were being held by hand or experiencing different types of vibration. You can adjust the intensity or displacement of the camera's movement as well as its speed to fit the context of your shot. You can switch around the different camera angles by adding more markers, and once you're finished with that clip, return to the timeline to get an overview of your project. Let's say for example that the middle of a recorded shot was not needed, but you wanted the start and end. The easiest way to do that is to edit the clip for the first section and then duplicate it within the timeline by pressing left Ctrl and C. The duplicated clip will now be stuck to your mouse cursor to be placed back on the timeline. Once placed, you can then edit the duplicated clip as required. All the information from the original clip is still there, you just need to remove the markers and reset your start and end point as required. The original clip will remain on the timeline as you left it. If you decide you want to reorder your clip slightly, highlight the clip you want to move and left Ctrl X to pick it up and replace it at the desired point on your timeline. Add music tracks and edit and place titles as required, and your completed project will be ready for export. Next, you'll choose a frame rate and a bit rate for the exported file. The bit rate determines the overall quality of the rendered video. The better the quality though, the larger the resulting video file. Once you're ready, name the project and the export process will be displayed on screen. Once complete, this will show up in your video gallery in the main menu. And that's it for now folks. The next video will be a guide to the free camera tool, which has quite a few options and settings to run through. Until then, bye bye.